So then, yeah, what do you called it? You ended up deciding on the name Gracie.
Obviously, because James and I have gone in different directions and to spend some time in different clubs, then it was a case of, well, which are we gonna go with,
Mm,
and certainly the two sides of the family are very different, and I think that's the thing that people don't recognize generally. I mean, I think generally when you're in a club, that word is gospel, and that's that. You
mm,
don't really see the big picture a lot of the time. Um, but on the different sides of the family, it's very different within the Graces. Um, and there's this always this whole debate about, this side is sportive, this side is self-defense, which one's best,
mm,
and there are good views on either side. I mean, you'll find the Reddit threads where you've got a guy from Gracie Barra side as an example, and he'll say, "Yeah, but your blue belts they can't roll. They're
mm,
rubbish in competition." That's true. That's
mm,
valid. You get a guy from the Gracie Academy side, would say, "You guys don't know how to defend yourself. You're doing the sport." In a street situation, you wouldn't last as long as I would. And that's
mm,
also true.
yeah.
And you train for what you need. Um, and certainly in that situation, obviously the Gracie University side, the focus initially is on self defense. So if you imagine all of the techniques, the armbar from the guard, the triangle, top mount, um, the sweeps,
Mm-hmm.
they're all done with punches.
Mm,
So there's a punch safe variation of all of those techniques, and they're taught as the primary part. So the combatives program,
right.
excuse me, and because of that, you learn to defend against punches in that kind of
Mm,
scenario, and I think that's very important from their perspective. Now, what happens later on, and the only problem with that is if you want to do the sport,
mm,
because if you're defending against an unskilled an unskilled opponent, you're not expecting your opponent to do an Americana
yeah.
or a guard pass or go for a submission.
Mm,
So you don't know how to counter those.
mm,
So you can actually work your way through to a four stripe white belt, which is 80 classes in Gracie Jiu Jitsu,
mm-hmm.
um, and not be good at countering someone else who knows Jiu Jitsu,
Yeah.
because that isn't the focus at that stage.
Mm,
Um, it's about the street and self defense. So the mindset's different, and I think it's a good mindset. It's perfectly valid. The other side, Gracie Barra. So as an example, on that side, you don't roll when you start. You
mm,
should be a four stripe white belt before you roll.
okay.
Well, you have to do 20 classes before you get a stripe. So
Yeah.
that's 80 classes before you start rolling. So the guys, when they get to blue belt, they haven't got that much rolling
Mm,
experience. And that's why you get this kind of difference between the two sides of the family. On this side, obviously, hi, what's your name? Good. Is an armbar. Right, let's roll.
yeah.
The mindset's really different.
Yeah.
And there are pros and cons to that.
Mm,
Personally, I think that's too soon.
mm.
But I think 80 classes is way too late.
Yeah, that's a lot of classes. I mean, I didn't know that you had to do. So I know there's a like a set syllabus and everything, but I didn't know that. Um, I thought it was only like after black belt where it's like so many years for this degree and so many years for that degree. So
No.
is it like okay, 20 classes stripe to white belt on your white belts, and then if you're a blue belt, then do you also do
Well, it's slightly different in that respect. So it's 20 classes per stripe. Um, but then the blue belt involves a big test. There's quite a strict test, and if you've got a qualified instructor, they can obviously do it for you. But it's also linked to the academy. So these things are videoed and sent off to
right?
the academy, and you have to score. I think it was over 80% or something.
Well,
And the details of there's get a grip wrong. Mm-mm. No, that's it. There's a lot of details involved in getting there, and they're
sure.
very strict on that. So the blue belt isn't just about number of classes. The blue belt
Mm,
is also about your ability. And within that, although they don't roll, there's reflex development classes, which are basically techniques glued together into flows.
mm-hmm.
And Then you get fight simulation classes, which are actually really good fun
Mm.
on both sides.
Yeah.
So the idea there is the bad guy, and that's the big difference as well. Bad guy, good guy.
Mm-hmm.
The bad guy puts on a pair of boxing gloves and just comes at you.
Mm.
He's not a skilled opponent. He doesn't know MMA. He just wants to try and knock your head off or squeeze your neck or
Mm.
whatever it may be. And you learn to defend against that. So that's kind of their early version of sparring in some way, because they've got a different priority. And that's a lot of fun. I
Mm.
do miss that,
Yeah.
to be fair. And it's very difficult to try and teach that in other clubs, because you've always got guys that train MMA and that kind of thing.
Mm.
And to turn around to someone and say, I know you're an MMA fighter, forget your MMA for now. You're a bad guy, an unskilled opponent, and go.
Mm.
And within 5-10 seconds, they're throwing out left jabs and doing double leg takedowns. And that's not the purpose of that exercise.
Mm.